But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If Earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken. We just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat Earth king of rhyme.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now, we are joined by Neil, Len, Adam, Click OK, and a whole bunch of people in the Flipside Discord server. So, welcome one and all.
Morning.
How are you? Yeah.
Who are you asking? I always wonder. Should I be responding? Will someone else ask me?
Everybody.
Are you asking generally? How's everybody doing?
How are you?
I'm all right. I've been shuffling around acoustic treatment, so I'm sure I've mentioned it on the last 5 shows since I decided to bite the bullet and spend the money, which is a good and a bad thing. A guy called Michael who's been contributing to me for years, probably the longest standing contributor that I have, and he goes out of his way to send me money via PayPal. Now, typically, I give that money to my wife because she's currently helping me edit my book. So I've said, yeah, I'll give you all the money that I get from PayPal. Now, in this instance, having decided I want to buy acoustic treatment that I couldn't quite afford, I was like, I'm going to use that particular regular payment and tell my wife, actually, this one's going towards acoustic treatment. So then I ordered the 650 quid's worth of acoustic treatment. It was slightly more, but I've negotiated a good deal with the supplier, who I'm obviously a regular customer for, so I knew how to contact the right person to get myself a 10% discount, and then sold a £100 microphone minus fees. That was like 93 quid. So I'm like, pretty good in that regard. You know, it's gone from 650 to about 500 quid that I've actually spent, thanks to a long-standing contributor and a microphone that I flogged. There was a 200 quid microphone that I punted out half price to the next watcher just because I wanted to turn it into a cash immediately. So I've sold a very expensive mic half price to get cash, and now I'm only 500 quid down for treatment that I can't really afford, but I want to get it done. So I want this whole space to be filled, and I've jiggled around what was formerly this backdrop. It's essentially in the same sort of position that the camera, that is, that it would be normally, albeit with the former arrangement of what you can see in shot being spread out differently. And then I've got 2 more panels that are coming, and 1 more to fill a gap that you can just see next to me. There's a box missing that's a bass trap, and then that's this wall looking uniform and nice and good for you know, doing interviews and going on shows and looking a bit more professional rather than just sounding good, as the chances are that they'll want me on camera the whole time based on previous appearances. That's generally the idea. They want to see a smiling, happy face, so I want that with a nice uniform backdrop. And yeah, so I've got Go ahead.
Why don't you just do what all the dweebs do, Nathan, and use a green screen? You could even put yourself in the ISS. That would make them very happy.
I mean, I have actually got that technology, so I've already got it programmed into the system. I don't know if I can do it on the fly. I'll have a look, but the green screen technology, all I've used it for is to slightly blur the background, so you kind of draw around yourself and decide how much fade you've got between the background. But then I've reintroduced the background as itself and blurred it slightly. That was all I ever used it for. So I didn't really want to be on the ASS, and it ended up with I can tell that it's like a cutout, like you've got a cutout shape around you, and the processor's got to figure out how to move that cutout on the fly. And occasionally, like with any green screen, you see that it's cutting around their face. I couldn't hack it mentally. It just drove me nuts, past tense. But that's all I've ever used it for, just to blur the background slightly when it was all Lego. But that's partially why I don't want to, give up getting the acoustic treatment finished, because it will look much better without having to blur cameras and things. It'll just be lots of hexagons behind me. And I think it'll look ace. Oh, I mean, it will look ace, I'm sure of it. Anyway, this acoustic treatment stint will run out. I mean, fortunately, I have gone through this mill 2, 3, 4, 5 times in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years since COVID, right? So 6 years probably, which is when I started treating this room. So maybe even longer than that. I've been treating this room for a long time. Like every birthday and Christmas, all I've asked for is panels for ages. And this, I can't see or envisage getting any more, because there's no more space to put them. Every surface is covered in panels. There are a couple of exceptions right down low, but even then, I might squeeze 2 more if I really tried hard. But for the most part, every single surface of the room, bar windows, is covered in acoustic treatment now. With the exception of the bit right behind me, like the only bit that matters, the bit on camera, because that was the first bit I did. But yeah,
You would think you'd take care of that first, right?
I did. Well, that was the first bit I treated. So I treated the wall behind me because that's what the mic's pointing at. So like that was the most critical wall to get treated. So I did it first. But obviously, when you've only got 2 or 3 panels, you kind of try and spread it out over a wall in such a way that you've got a lot of surface area covered and it's all evenly spaced. As opposed to what it'll end up, which is just the whole wall being treated. But I've never been able to afford to buy more than a couple of panels at a time. And I have for years, and now it's nearly done. But it'll look mint, and the rest of the room matches. That is to say, from my position where I'm sat, it looks glorious. But on camera, it doesn't. Looking back the other way doesn't look so great. But it will.
So wait a second. So you were saying that when you first put those up, you knew that you were going to eventually go throughout the whole room?
No, what you learn very quickly when you start acoustic treatment, it's like crack, right? You try it and you go, oh, that's really good. It makes a big difference. That sounds better. And then you go, I can hear flutter echo from there and there. And suddenly you identify the flaws more. And you go, well, I will treat those spaces. And then you realise that each time you treat, after the initial, I notice a difference and all the imperfections more, each time you treat, the needle moves a tiny bit. Right, so you just have to keep going until essentially every surface is covered in acoustic treatment. Then it's finished, and then you go, I wish I had a bigger room to fit more treatment in, because it's never ending. Trying to push the needle a little bit. I mean, the bass traps that I've bought will attenuate the room's worst frequency, one room mode, which is 37 hertz. It's. I won't give you the maths to bore you tits off you, but this is my dweeby stuff, right? The quarter wave fits in the room in a certain dimension, and that will be the frequency that booms and resonates, right? At the length of the room. There's 3, one for the ceiling, one for the width, one for the length. Those room modes translate into a frequency and are loudest where the pressure, that's where the wave of sound hits the wall, where it presses on the wall and then comes back the other way. So there's 2 different ways of treating it. One is to catch it as it moves, that's velocity, or counteract the pressing on a wall, that's pressure. Well, pressure traps, each time you add one, you attenuate the sound by 0.5 dB. So you're adding loads of thick treatment along the walls, which is helping. It's slowing, it's taking out some of the velocity of that wave. But when it hits the back wall, you've just got to take it out at its core by having something sympathetically resonate at the same frequency. That's a trap. Well, the traps, like I say, until you start getting multiples bigger than 2, which is what I've got currently, I'll add a third, you're not really pushing the needle very much in terms of the extraction of huge bass frequencies, which are really difficult to treat. So the way to counter that is to have a bigger room and have more space for more treatment. That's the only way you can deal with it. So the contrast is that the smaller the room, the worse it is to try and treat it. Therefore, the more treatment it needs in a small room. And any room in anybody's house is considered a small room. It's not like a stadium or auditorium. You know what I mean? It's a small room.
Right. When I say you would have done behind you first, that meant vertically, but you didn't know it at the time, and you were learning as you were going. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. You don't know what you're doing. You just have to bite the bullet
Okay.
at some point and buy a panel. So I bought the most expensive panel that they offered at the time, which was 250 quid, and it still is actually. It's the same price. So the panel behind me is the first panel I bought, and it is huge and chunky and on its side so that I could get it all in one camera shot with me, just my head and the panel single behind me. Whereas as time's progressed, you're like, that's a crap angle. And it means your head's sort of in a vice because you can't move if you do want to be on camera. Whereas I want to be able to have lots of space around me so that if I go from my presentation position, which is this, which is comfortable, to how I end up in the show, which is with my feet up quite literally on the stool, like that. You know, I want to be able to turn the camera on and berate somebody from the comfort of the relaxed position in this particular reclining chair. So, you know, from that perspective, I need more space. And if it's just the, you know, framing of one panel behind me, then you're not going to get much more than a headshot. Whereas what looks nice on camera is above your fat belly and a little bit of space, headroom as they call it, above your head. So, you know, just enough to have the camera not visible, things like that, right? Where is the camera if not visible? The mic not visible, I should say. My shotgun mic out of frame. Not that you can see that on the vertical view if you're watching this on a mobile phone. Shout out to you all. Right, that was a solid 10 minutes of talking about acoustic treatment. Should we do some flat earthing?
Well, now I look for that. Adam sent me a link, but I don't know if that's the link you need for a level playing field.
Oh, I hope so. Well, let's just get straight into that now. You've mentioned it, so it follows on. So in the pre-show, Neil was saying, why don't we look at some of the old school rhetoric? And I dobber in. Tamara, the author of Flat Earth Fun Facts in this particular instance, let's do it so it's appearing in the vertical view as well, noted that some of the newer rhetoric was kind of not tarnishing, but inconsistent, let's just say, with some of the rhetoric from the poems from her books. Now, she said that in a very jovial way, and Neil was like, let's look at an Eric Dubay book, and now that would be equally as worthy, and just sort of see how old rhetoric compares to new rhetoric. So I just happened to grab the third of four books that I was going to cover between now and when my own comes out from Level Playing Poem. Now, this one was actually specifically addressed to my wife Paula with a handwritten tab, and I'm in no doubt, although I haven't checked, it's probably got a note to her on the inside. Yes, indeed it has. So I'll ask my wife to read this. But I've not been through this book. But what I said to Neil was, I'm in no doubt that I, on the fly, could probably find a page that is, semi-consistent with what we do now, but demonstrates it being older school rhetoric from years gone by. And what do you know? The tab, unbeknownst to me, that was actually covering the highlighted section by the author, that's Tamara, about this show. So it's got Flat Earth Debate and Nathan Oakley 1980 specifically mentioned on a tab in this book that she's been kind enough to include me in, right? Now, my section's about having a 90 degree below the zenith of a star, utilisation of a triangle in celestial navigation, and not being able to have a curved adjacent. That's the Where's the Proof titled section about Flat Earth Debate specifically. But in the pre-show, we read out the page prior. Having not gone through it, I didn't realise that's what the tab was for. And it's about something called the experiment. Now, our old school rhetoric was to undermine the hijacking of scientific vernacular like experiment when you're just measuring flat earth elevation angles to the sun in the case of Eratosthenes. But I'll just read this. The experiment. Eratosthenes assumed that the earth was a sphere made up of 360 degrees, then assumed parallel rays from the sun. While corpuscular rays debunk that with ease, he assumed the distance between the two cities. Just an estimation, while he assumed the sun went directly over the well, but its latitude proves that miscalculation. Even if the figures he put into the equation provide an answer that works out mathematically, what a difference does that make if the information he entered was not true, correct, factual, credible, valid, or even acquired scientifically? discovering the insane amounts of anomalies and discrepancies has actually been really fun. Because in the end, the setup of his experiment only proves a small and local sun. That's Level Plain Poem. Let's put it into the aspect again that you can see in the vertical feed. And this is Flat Earth Fun Facts by Tamara Cheville. And it was very kindly sent by the author, that's Tamara, to me at her expense. And that, along with 2 previous books that we have covered already on Flat Earth Debate, I'm hoping one of my mods has dug out a link for you, the audience, to be able to acquire one of these books from Tamara, or from wherever it is that she has them produced. And yeah, I'm going to cover one more of these books. Now, this one I've not read, as I mentioned when I grabbed it. I'm like, well, rather than doing an Eric Debate book that I don't physically have, let's read out that. Now, the only thing that we would probably turn our noses up is the notion of a claim of a small and local sun, when obviously the acquisition of an elevation angle, as detailed specifically by the author, much to my delight when I found it on the next page, about me specifically pointing out that you can't have a curved adjacent when you're measuring a triangle that's got a right angle for celestial navigation, areas of equal altitude, lines of position, and ultimately your fix. That's to say where you are, so you're not going to die at sea, having got lost. So there we go. That's her book. I'll plug it one more time. Level Plain Poem, Flat Earth Fun Facts. And this is the 3rd in a series of 4 that have been sent, and I'll cover the 4th at some other juncture. But ultimately, that's why we've covered it, so that we, as a panel now, can discuss some of the old school rhetoric, maybe small and local suns where we'll start. Please don't hate me, Tamara. Thank you again so much for sending the books.
I put a link in the chat. Craig sent the link. I think that's it.
Brilliant. I want the audience to be able to, find their way to these books, as she has been kind enough, that's Tamara, has been kind enough to send them to me, as I say, at a great expense, getting them through customs and paying the duty for me. And, it cost me not a dime, and cost her quite a significant chunk to get me these books, so I could see that I'm getting shouted out in them. You're like, oh, very, very kind of her. Such generosity will not come anybody's way with regards to my book. Far from mentioning people, I've changed their names and invented new ones. No one wants to get sued, right? That's something should I mention. When it comes to reading the book, part of, you're not supposed to have in-jokes. In-jokes are very frowned upon. What's an in-joke? An in-joke is, in the theatre, you and the rest of the cast and crew might have seen a vase fall over. One of the props got smashed. Now, if a joke arose from that smashing of that vase that only the cast saw, and they told that joke during a performance about something that only the cast would know about, that's called an in-joke. Well, they're very much frowned upon. You'll normally see actors engaging in in-jokes in outtakes for movies and such like. Well, an in-joke is allowed if it's universally translatable. So although it is an in-joke, you, the inside group, understands the premise of the joke. As long as the external group, the wider audience, also can appreciate the joke in general, then it has a deeper meaning for the inside group, and it's just a general frivolity for anybody looking in. So for that reason, what I've done is changed all of the names. Occasionally come across them as we're going through the 8th draft. Is it 8th? I think it's 8th. Whatever. The 8th draft, and saying, oh no, that needs to change. So I might as well just drop this one in. I haven't, to my knowledge, said any of them on a live show. But Bill Whittle is someone that we specifically named in the book. We covered him doing a show called Make It Stop, which is so telling in terms of a title, because he's talking about flat Earth, and it's like at that particular time we were describing people and their behaviour by reaction as our reaction, that is, as being share your pain. Well, when you say make it stop, that's Bill Whittle, right? Well, anyway, in case he doesn't, see this, we'll hope that nobody passes on that I've changed his name. I won't actually, that's what I'll do to keep myself safe and sound. I won't mention what we've changed his name to, because then you just have to guess, and if it just coincidentally is that particular person, then you'll see that name and go, I see the association. All of them have got a loose association, right? So if it was, Edmund Seesaw, you'd change it to, Edward Roundabout. You know what I mean? It's close enough that you can get it if you know the person, but far enough away that it's definitely a different name. So that's, one of the things that we've done. But it's fun, as you're reading through, if you're on the inside and you're like regular watcher of the show, trying to figure out, well, who's this person and how many paragraphs can you get down the story or anecdote before you go, I know exactly who this is, if you don't get it from the name, But some of them you'll just go, I know who that is just from the change of name from being on the inside. If you're just an external, like I say, wider audience member reading the book, you'll just read a name and it's just a name. Now, some of the names are amusing, right? One of them's Gobbling Dogs. Well, Gobbling Dogs is quite an amusing name. Well, as you come across that and read it, you're like, Gobbling Dogs, what the hell does that mean? Nothing, it's just a made-up name. But, for the sake of the amusement of somebody who's on the inside, they go, now who's Gobbling Dogs? I wonder. Good fun. I'm really enjoying going through it. We started doing the 8th draft read-through. So my wife had done a whole bunch of jiggery pokery, moving the chapters into a seemingly correct order, adding anecdotal chapters to the ends of chapters that were actually about that subject to begin with, things of that sort of nature. But now it's in an order. We're reading through it. What chapter did we get to yesterday evening, hun? We got to chapter 3, so that's a testament to how little editing there is needing to be done to these chapters. So it's always a concern that you'll go through the 8th draft as we are now and go, God, there's loads of editing that still needs to be doing. And yes, there is still changes that are being made and things that aren't quite making full sense. One of them was talking about gyroscopes. It's being introduced into the subject because it's being utilised, that's a gyroscope, by an individual. And whilst introducing the topic of gyros, I'm preemptively explaining what gyros do in regards to like straight and level flight and not crashing in an aeroplane. So I'm prefacing it whilst explaining a character who's about to use it for a different purpose, whilst making the audience acutely aware of how flat Earth is being utilised by gyroscopic motion for straight and level flight. Well, in terms of a convolution of discussion points, that's me giving it to you, the audience, in a way that's relatively consistent verbally. But if you listen to it back, I've probably got quite a lot of redundancy in how I've described it. And when you're reading it, you just want it to introduce a concept, that's gyroscopic motion. Describe what you're talking about it with, that's a gyroscope. Introduce a character who's about to use that tool, whose name will not be mentioned, and then explain how the use they're about to put it in future tense too is incongruent with what the tool actually does. That's prove a flat earth. So that's quite a lot to get into one flowing nice sentence. So we came across this like in chapter 3 and then ended up spending 25 minutes or more going, how do we rephrase this sentence to encapsulate that you're talking about flights that are utilising a tool that someone else that you've just introduced is about to use in the future. You're like, oh God, it just needs a bit of spit and polish to make these sentences work. But beyond that, the meat of the chapters is there in all instances so far. I mean, we've only read back through 3, but it's really good having edited it, and you pour your sweat and heart into making the material as good as possible and flow nicely and keeping the audience member, reader in this case, engaged with the material. Make sure it's not too boring, because it is easily wanderable into boring territory, man. That's my biggest concern, that when we're talking about Aristophanes or elevation angles or some of the stuff that we're currently mocking our opponents for, right? This is my concern, is I say you're boring fart sniffers when you want to talk about orbital motion, gravity, Coriolis effect, elevation angle, salnav, any of these things. They're just dull. I'll be honest. So me being an author, not quite published yet, but nevertheless having just written a book, you want the book to flow in a way that is captivating, or I think that's the right word, captivating for the person reading it. That's to say they are captivated by the material, that can be easily seen as dull and used to give them a revelation if they haven't already recognised how flat Earth is, but simultaneously satisfy a perceived former opponent that may not like the way I present their belief in a ball and indeed demolish it in a way that is happily acceptable by a reader that's, in our own quote marks, flat earthers. So there's a lot of people to satisfy in terms of not letting the person, most importantly, that's outside of our group, because that's the wider audience, that's everyone else, get bored. You know, you want it to be exciting. So I really hope it's doing that. You know, some of the stuff, like I say, the material is a bit tedious. And, you know, it's one thing to mock our opponents for how tedious and valuable they see this information as, because the wider audience didn't see it valuable. Well, I've now got to take that shit and polish it. I've got to give a good gleam to that dog turd and make, you know, Aristophanes measuring frickin' angles seem exciting.
Well, we seem to have somebody in the chat that's a little bit confused. Do you want me to read it real quick?
If you will. I don't care.
Euclidean axiomatics is built on a plane. It should end right there, right, Nathan? And all applied science, it should end there too, is built on Euclidean geometry. In non-Euclidean geometry, namely spherical geometry, a great circle is a circle whose radius is equal to the radius of the sphere itself, and whose center coincides with the center of the sphere. Non-Euclidean geometry doesn't work because the 6,300 kilometer straight line is part of a great circle.
Sorry, I tuned out for a minute there. Can you say some of that again? Because it was really exciting.
You tuned out when I did, when he said plane.
God, I was getting into that, Neil.
You want me to repeat it, or are you just playing around?
I don't care. I switched off about half a sentence into the one after you described how Euclidean principles are flat. You highlighted that, and then now what else is there to do? It's just silly. What are we doing again? I don't know. Like I say, if I'm trying to appease somebody who's seemingly my opponent, I've got to represent this boring shit, haven't I? Right? And do a good job where they go, no, he hasn't missed out huge chunks of our information in this chapter for the sake of brevity or conciseness. You know, he's represented it as best he can and then taken a big fat dump on it. But ultimately, I'm past this now, right? I don't want to pour scorn on my opponents for having this stuff be dull, which it is, and then go, oh, this has fired all the right chemicals in my brain to suddenly engage with this boring shit. It's like, I've spent 10 years learning this boring shit. It was pushing out other stuff that was probably a lot more useful. And there's a reason now that we've assessed it all and gone, okay, so Earth's just measured flat, that most people in the general public go, nah, it's not worth my time. What's that? Space and travel into the moon and stuff. Yeah, okay, fine. I'll just accept it if that's the common rhetoric. Greater men than I have obviously dedicated their mental energy to that, which I find quite dull and just don't really want to. There's a Simpsons bit where Homer and Bart are fighting over the remote. It goes on the floor, swaps the channel, and it's a launch, a NASA launch. And the announcer goes, on today's mission, we have a mathematician together with a statistician, and the third crew member is another mathematician, and they're going to be travelling out to the satellite Gemini 5. That's what's bumbling out of the screen. While that's happening, Bart and Homer are fighting with the most intense intentions to get this shit off their screens as quickly as possible. Going, it's boring, change it! Because it is, yeah? Even to Bart, who's supposed to be about, 9-10 years old, the key demographic for this boring shit, even he's finding it tedious because he's out with his catapult and graffiti can, right? To the cool kids, this is boring. To the dweebs, who at this key age, Bart's age, are going, wow, spaceship. Not Bart and Homer. They find it incredibly tedious and they're not interested in it. And they want to change the channel as quickly as possible. Yeah. Now, we found a revelation through Conspiratardia that Earth was flat. All very exciting when it was presented and packaged up with Mark Sargent's clues, if that's how you came to this subject, looking down my camera barrel, right? You know, Chapter 1, The Empty Theatre. You know what I mean? Well, that seems exciting. Then you get 10 years into it and go, no, it was actually all very dweeby. Like going out to Santaland, outer space, Narnia, and rocket ships in sky vacuums, and there were no Jedis, there was no lightsabers, it was all a big lie. Superman wasn't spinning the world the other way around. They just gave us that impression with movies, the lying bastards. You're like, okay, what's it all boiled down to then? Well, it's just measured flat. It's actually really boring and simple. There's nothing much to it, really. It's just measured flat Earth, that is. Well, what about the ball that we all thought we were on? Yeah, that gets made with the flat Earth measurements. There's not much to it. Yeah, when you understand how the trick's done, you're turning your measurements of a flat plane with a protractor view into the surface. That's it. It's really basic. Here's a picture of it. There you go. It's dead easy. It's not complicated at all. Earth's just a giant protractor. Like, if the latitude numbers with degrees on it didn't give it away, then I don't know what would have done. But there you go. There's a shorthand version. Earth's measured flat. Earth's glorified protractor. The latitude lines represent the North Pole centric system that's measured flat to create it. There's nothing else to it. But what? Copernicus and orbital motion and retrogrades and... they seem exciting if you've got a telescope. But like Bart, his telescope's in a cupboard with his karate costume and various other fads that he's got lost interest in. But you thought it was valuable talking to our formerly perceived as opponents. You thought it was real valuable. You invested in that, and now you're very annoyed that we're saying it's not real. Yeah. It's all very amusing at the moment. Flat Earth is a fun subject. And I'm enjoying it more, being able to look back retrospectively, I think the word is, at housekeeping and 10 years of debate, 12 years or whatever it is for me in this subject. It's interesting because you go, that's then. I can associate a lot of key points with milestones for my eldest and youngest daughter in terms of their life as they've grown up as kids as I've gone through this process. And that's beautiful, that I can associate my career, which this is, with my kids and experiencing them growing up, having homeschooled them. Delightful. I look back with great fondness, and it's summarised in the book with anecdotal information, jape names and, fun stories that are a bit more lowbrow. It's talking about people rather than the concepts of the heliocentric endeavour. But, it's a wonderful time at the moment. I'm really excited. The only downside is my views have sort of plateaued a little bit. They're normally on the constant growth. They've kind of flattened out. And a few people have deserted me. Like, half a dozen subscribers gone over the course of maybe a month or two. Why? Well, because we're saying you're fart sniffers too on the Flat Earth side. We're learning this heliocentric shit. You saw what the dweebs valued and braced against you online and thought, I'll have some of that dweeby boring stuff. And now you value it too, becoming fart sniffers. Which is a shame, because that meant I've had a slight dip in my, ultimately always growing statistics. So it's a bit of a plateau. That's not as good as I would hope. You want to see constant growth, right? Well, I haven't necessarily got that at this particular time, but moving forward, I've got books to promote and hopefully a few channels to go out and promote them on. That will address that, and then everything will be roses rather than just most of my life being roses. And I'm really poor, but that kind of goes without saying. Support me on Patreon.
Well, the book will remedy that. Yeah, it's the same people coming in chat every day, Nathan. They have names like Neil Protects the Gullible or One Angle Proof Stupid. I mean, do I need to entertain these people? I try. I try to answer them. People in the chat try to answer them, and they won't have it. So my message to them is go in peace.
Didn't we used to have a little blessing? Radius Dominus Spiritus Sanctus, Amen. Go in peace, in R you trust.
Beautiful. Did you hear that, everybody? Go in peace. Like, Nathan, why would somebody spend so much time making stock account after stock account coming in here just to tell us what they think is correct when we know it's not? What would motivate somebody to be so persistent? Like, the first time somebody says get lost, I'm gone.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I don't know, maybe they get...
They need the argument, don't they? Sorry,
go ahead,
Dave.
One Deck. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, good, mate. Yeah. We've been over this previously. They want the argument that there is an argument to stay alive, to feed their ego, to feed their belief in the globe, which is measured flat, and that's what they're doing by any means that they can. Ad hominem attacks, whatever they need to do to get a reaction back to keep this going for them in their mind. That's what they're doing at the moment, and it's quite entertaining to watch, actually.
So Euclid created a globe by rotating a circle on a flat plane. That's what I got to deal with? Really? And they want me to take them serious. We're speaking about reality here. Nobody has ever experienced anything other than flat. And when people have gone out, cartographers, people that make maps, people that survey the land, people that sail the seas have measured it flat. That's it. It's very simple. This is not complicated.
Yeah, it's all summed up in the theme tune of the song now. At the beginning, One Deck, the song that you took notes on things that I was spitting on the show, and then it turned into If Earth Was a Big Roast Chicken. Well, that summarises everything that Neil's just said. So I'm talking to my wife about her appointments today. My bad. Sorry, what was the last thing we were talking about? I was distracted for a second. Oh, well, I'm glad we got that cleared up. What were you saying, One Deck?
I think we were just saying how the Greeks measured flat, and it was supposedly a curve measurement, and they measured flat, and that's supposedly globe proof.
That's pretty out there. Let's be honest. Yeah. Oh, thank you, hun. Well, I've got myself a drink now.
Like, how many times do I have to time out Batman and Oakley? You're coming in with a name like that, I'm going to time you out. But they're persistent, Nathan.
Nothing much changes in that regard. I mean, being trolled by dweebs. And that's all it boils down to, right? Most people troll until they get banned and then go somewhere else because they haven't got a million soccer accounts. But dweebs know how to create soccer accounts. so they can. Well, you're not getting rid of me. Even though you despise me, I'm staying here anyway. You're like, oh, really?
Okay, so you're going to come in with a name like that, Batman and Oakley, and you say something like this. This is funny, Nathan, because Earth is so large that a pilot can practically not care. The rest is handled by the instruments.
Okay. What, not care about how flat it is? Or how globe-shaped it is?
They don't care because they're flying over a flat plane. Once they level off at 30,000 feet, they could just chill out until they're given another set of directions to maybe descend. Or maybe when they're coming in for, getting close to the airport, they got to start, descending. But, you're going to come in here with nonsense like that? Right through Earth is flat.
It's curved, Neil, but it's just so big, the curve is flat, mate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I won't even argue in the curve part where you start saying, well, you don't know. It's flat. It's measured that way. You have the pitch data. I mean, it's all documented. You're flying over a flat plane. End the story.
Yes, there's two different types of people. The one person is sat on the aeroplane and says, excuse me, can you just explain something to me? When they level the plane off at 30,000 feet and remain in straight and level flight till we arrive at our destination, does that mean that it actually curves? Now, that's the one type of person. The other person says, in their mind, I wonder if I flirt with that hostess, if she'll join the Mile High Club with me in the toilets. I wonder. One of those people is happier than the other.
Again, any videos to go through today or anything?
I don't know. I've been working my little socks off, moving the acoustic treatment around. So what's on camera now was formerly spread across this whole wall. Well, I've had to take it all to pieces and then rebuild it back up in one corner. And then I've temporarily wedged one giant panel, the first one I ever bought, vertically behind me. And that's all I've done since yesterday's show ended. Moved acoustic treatment around, fiddled with cleats, or whatever you call them, French clips. I've forgotten what they call them, like picture rail slat things. Mucked around with those, taking them off and putting them on panels and adjusting screws and nails and, like I say, faffing around with acoustic treatment. So,
One deck I did go over with Nathan what we spoke about yesterday, about maybe going through some old stuff, some old rhetoric, some books that are out there, and see how they would be addressed today.
yeah, speaking of which, Level Playing Poems book. Might as well plug it again in case we've got any newbies that have just joined the show. So this is what we've been reading out on the pre-show, and indeed earlier in today's show I read out a bit of it. And a massive shout out to Tamara Cheville for sending me out Flat Earth Fun Facts. This is the book she sent to you, Paula. It's got a note on the inside. Okay. I haven't actually read it through, just the one tab that she highlighted for me. So there's going to be one other book that we cover from Level Playing Poem, who's one of my Patreons. Be sure to check out Patreon if you want to join me there and support this show. I'd be much obliged. But in the case of Level Playing Poem, she sent me 4 books along with a calendar for us to go through, and this is the third of 4. So Flat Earth Fun Facts. Hopefully one of the mods will put a link to this particular book, as we've covered the small and local sun, possibly something that we wouldn't put our name next to here on Flat Earth Debate, but it rhymed. It was part of a poem. So there we go. On the very next page of that book, it's talking about elevation angle measurements and how flat Earth is a prerequisite for those measurements that form things like the heliocentric ball Earth system that's dependent on the flat Earth measurements of things like elevation angles, altitude in general, surface level, parallel eye level, or in the case of the discussion that we're having currently, flight levels.
Yeah, we were just talking about Eric Debate came into it and a couple of other books, what were the proofs back then, the 200 proofs that Earth is not a spinning water ball, I think it was called. And we're just going through a few of them and just seeing how is it being put forth then? What was the actual proof of this? We noticed that it wasn't 200 proofs of how the Earth's measured flat, which is obviously how you've progressed now with your book, because all roads do lead to a flat Earth and it's measured flat. So we were just looking at that and looking at some things, but there was one author who was talking about and making a fact that the sun isn't far away and it is local. So, you was getting a lot of these stupid feast of nonsense claims. So we were just going through that really and having a chit chat about it and just comparing things and how would we state that one of the points now in this rhetoric, how would it, we've done the similar thing with the house.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying.
So-called proofs, that's all it was.
You're breaking up a little bit. Yes, I totally get what you're saying. So there's an old school rhetoric where formerly the order of the day was, I'll include the current rhetoric in my explanation for the old school rhetoric. If we measure Earth flat with an elevation angle measurement and don't insert the R value, then it would make the sun close. If, however, we measure the Earth flat with an elevation angle and we do insert the R value, then Earth is far away. So I say, because Earth's flat, this false dichotomy lands on the side of a flat Earth measurement, resulting in a flat Earth, rather than a flat Earth measurement resulting in the addition of an R value. Therefore, the sun is close. Like, okay, contrast that with Earth's measured flat with elevation angles. It doesn't matter if you believe you're on a ball or not. It's just measured flat. With what, you say? Well, the angles that you measure Earth flat with. Like in this story about measuring flat angles to make a ball, or measuring flat angles to measure flat angles. Both use flat angles. It's prerequisite when you measure angles to the sun or the stars. So when we measure Earth flat with angles, we don't necessarily have to ignore the fact that we've measured Earth flat with the angles and then start inserting R values to flat Earth measurements to suggest that Earth has sphericity, to show how it doesn't work with a local sun that I claim after ignoring the flat Earth angles that I measure Earth flat with, and then infer that the angles that are useless for acquiring heights of the celestial objects like the sun infer that we've got a close sun that I can't measure the distance with, because that triangle changes as I move farther or further away from it at a given time. All things being equal, the altitude of the sun changes when I move away from... No, it doesn't. But the angle can be used to track positional information, form maps, create time systems, derive calendars, all from the flat Earth prerequisite elevation angles that we do measure with the sun, and only the flat Earth angles, because that's how Earth is measured, and always was. Even when you extract out of the box thinking from these flat Earth measurements and turn them into a ball shape that violates the measurements by making the surface curve, therefore not allowing you to acquire the measurements of flat Earth angles that you use to make the ball with, when you turn the protractor that you've measured the angles with into the curve of the surface of the ground. But ultimately speaking, we just measure Earth flat, so none of that is actually necessary to go through. We just measure Earth flat. Old school, well, that means the sun's close. No, it means we measured Earth flat with angles. So did they, in this false dichotomy. Everyone's measuring it flat. Why do we need to argue about how far the sun is? But the conclusion isn't that we measure Earth flat, therefore it's flat, when comparing it to their flat Earth measurement with an introduction of an R value that's been presupposed and, if measured, would also require Earth be flat to acquire it. We instead look at how far or near the sun is. Well, that's not a conclusion that's going to prove that we're just measuring it flat anyway. In fact, we did measure it flat, we just ignored it on both sides. That's old school versus new school.
And you could do all that and then say that we've got, the waters are contained by a circular ice wall. That's Antarctica. You could go down that route as well. That's what people used to do back then. After measuring Earth flat, going on to talk about something that they haven't got a clue about.
To Antarctica, we arrive having travelled in straight and level flight, and then we set up our equipment, measure a few flat Earth angles, and then maybe ask a few flat Earths how they work on a flat Earth.
Yeah, that's the rhetoric, and it's getting a little annoying. You can't just continue to ignore all the flat Earth measurements that you bring to the table. By the way, the table's flat as well. But whatever you bring, it's going to be on a plane. And once you get through your heads, then maybe you could work it through and realize that we live on a plane, and it's not really a big deal.
Or when they're trying to explain this ball that they think they live on, don't be using terms like, altitude, miles, sea level, horizontal, vertical, plumb, perpendicular. You've got to be careful with your wording now, globe believers.
Yeah, and the key one you said is altitude, one deck. Focus on altitude. I mean, that's a flat plane reference. You cannot get an altitude. How can you maintain a steady altitude? The Earth must be a plane. The Earth is a plane. That's how we get altitude.
Yeah, altitude, like most things, is a flat Earth prerequisite. It's perpendicular to a plane. That's what... Up, altitude, height, all of these things are an axiomatic flat Earth prerequisite. You need the horizontal plane to be at 90 degrees to measure in an upward vector if you're travelling in that direction, or ascribe a plumb line, or describe an altitude, or detail or measure an elevation angle. All things to do with the axes in a Euclidean principle. When you describe how high something is, that's perpendicular to the plane. That's what that axis is. That's what that height is. That's what that elevation angle is. That's what you're measuring. That's how Earth is measured. That's how we derive all these systems. So it's like, who cares if you want to argue about this? It doesn't matter if you say that the principle that is seated in Euclidean geometry is violating it. Like, no, we have spherical. Okay, it's just geometry, and they must obey these axioms. Now, when we measure Earth with these axioms, that's to say we're describing altitude, we are automatically adhering to them. Doesn't matter if you want to say that we're not verbally. It's just a mathematical axiom that you're utilising when you describe height. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. Earth is just measured flat. It doesn't matter if you disagree or dislike it. It's just how it's done.
Nathan, if I take a flight, let's say to California, that's a good long distance from New York. That's 3,000 miles. When that plane levels off at, say, 30,000 feet, and I travel at least 2,000 of those miles at 30,000 feet. Hello? Why do I have to explain anything any further? If the penny don't drop there, then it's never going to drop.
Be that second person. You know, instead of looking at the legs of the hostess, you're going, I wonder if they serve gin and tonic on this flight. Can I get shit-faced for free?
I noticed that the pilot is very relaxed over there.
Yeah.
Like I keep saying, Earth is measured flat, but not only that, Earth is flat for the measurements thereafter. Now we've got something called sea level. Sorry, I mean mean sea level. Now that was just here on Earth. It's level. Now the average levelness has been measured, but it was level anyway to start with, to give us the baseline, the 0 degree baseline for all elevation profiles on Earth. That's what we was given to work with. It was level. Simple as that.
Yeah, imagine God giving us a freaking globe and saying, "Go ahead, build cities on this." Made it easy for us, you know? Hello? It's the only way you can do it.
But then you get people, ball believers. I was explaining sea level, like I said to you yesterday, Neil, and some ballers said, well, you've got different tides on deck. So, you know, if you've got one piece of string at a tide at high tide and you extend that string to a tide at low tide, are you telling me that string's level? I mean, this is what we're up against, guys.
It's back to that pedestal they want you on. Are you telling me? Like, why would you need me to be telling you anything? Why don't you go out, figure it out? You know, because I don't give a shit about you anymore. I'm not telling you anything. Get lost. What's that? No, you are. You're telling me. Now, that implies that I give a crap about you knowing. And I don't. Not anymore. Don't care. You want to believe you're on a ball? Feel free. Won't change what it is. Won't change how it's measured. We are inconsequential. Us putting each other on pedestals and asking each other, are you telling me blah, blah, blah? Nah, not anymore. I think those days are over.
But they don't want to leave.
Yeah, I know. Some people are stuck in their mental prison and they can't move on from it. And it doesn't matter if they've got an open door in front of them. They can't stroll out the jail cell. They're just like, no, I need to insult the jailer. Okay, well, you do that. Yeah, these people pop you on a pedestal, don't they? Are you telling me? Yeah, you need me to be telling you, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you said, Nathan. It becomes about you, the other person, not the topic. Yeah, they try and build you up and then try and knock you down or ad hominem attacks. It's never about the actual measurements with these people, and that's all we're talking about, the measurements. It seems to have really shook them up a little bit, these measurements.
Yes.
I mean, you can't argue with sea level. You can't argue with it. It's level.
But they do. And they come in and they're nonstop. They come in with soccer count after soccer count, no matter what you tell them. Please go get a life. Go in peace. Okay, you believe you're on a globe. That's fine. We don't care. We know it's measured flat. Why are you bothering us? We're just trying to hang out here and have a good time talking about things. Promoting Nathan's book. Promoting the channel. It's been on for over 10 years, this Flat Earth debate. Pretty powerful channel.
They just need a little blessing. Radius Dominus, Gravitas Spiritus Sanctus Arwin. Go in peace. In R we trust.
Got a guy coming in. They just don't stop and learn from each other. No, we can't learn from you because you are a moron. Now, you can sit still and listen because we are actually telling you what's what.
Yeah, we just defer to your exemplary knowledge. So from now on, when you're like, are you telling me? Know this. I defer to your exemplary knowledge on the matter. You know best. Good for you. Thank you. Thank you for being the arbiter of such things. And you can know that we defer to your superior intellect and knowledge of Earth's surface. Thank you so much. I wonder if they get beer on this flight. They get beer? Do we get a glass with the beer?
Thing is, though, they did learn us, Nathan. We missed it in the beginning. They did when he was sending us the globe proof, apparently, with, a guy measuring angles, Greek guy measuring angles and distance along the surface of Earth, and another guy measuring elevation angles to mountains, and then, measuring depression angles from eye level to surface level. That was realization that actually the Earth's being measured flat in every instance, in every example. So everything they say will be a flat Earth proof. Without a doubt. You can't get away from it because you've got to deal with sea level in the beginning. And it's level. So there's no way out of this. You're trapped.
Nathan, I got a technical question for you. This guy's saying...
About acoustic treatment?
No. It's about what's happening. He's saying that when he types his messages, he can't see them. When I type, I can see what I write, but if I close the chat and open it, all my messages aren't there. Just wanted to see if I've been blocked for any reason. My chat name appears as DJD637.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know either. Are you a baller? Because if you're the one sending some of these retarded comments, I'm timing them out. If that's the case,
I don't intend to manage my own chat. I have people for that. I'm sorry. Speak to one of the moderators. You're a moderator, right, Neil? He needs to appeal to you, and he's already made his way to the right person, hasn't he?
oh, I take that back. He said, here, I'm reading down where he says, been listening for years and love you guys and the show and everything about it. If you can help, please accept my apologies for contacting you directly. Many thanks, Davy Jones. I'll look into it. Okay.
Sweet. If there is a mistake, I need the channel name that your account's under. So if you've got a YouTube channel name, I can make my way to it and unban you if necessary. But it's a pain in the ass. But I do need to actually find the channel's homepage So for me, it's Nathan Oakley 1980 homepage, and on that you can go into the little three dots on the right, and there's a flag, and then you click on the flag, and then you say unhide from channel. That's the only way to actually do it. There's no like universal full list of people, and the one that YouTube provide doesn't work or function correctly, so it doesn't actually take somebody from the position where they can't see their chat if they've been banned to being able to. So it's like, if you ever contact me about being unbanned from a YouTube live chat with a particular account, I need the full channel name exactly as it is, so I can type it in and find my way to it as a search. If I can't, and I type it in, there's 50 other million videos that are under the same name, like Davy Jones. Suddenly you've got a bazillion different Disney clips. Then it's like, well, I'm never going to find that. You know, you need the exact channel name for me to be able to find my way to your channel, to click on the little flag and unhide you from the channel if one of the moderators has accidentally hit you, for example. So there you go. Now you know.
Yeah, he's going to send it to me, and then I'll private message you, see what you could do.
Well, I'm glad we've rounded out the live show with such excitement. Go ahead. Sorry, one deck.
It'd be nice to have somebody. Sorry, it'd be nice to have some of these guys like get more involved on the chat side. You know, at Discord and these other guys, instead of on the text, just jump in, have a chat with us about how you're finding the new rhetoric, how you're dealing with it. Are you has it been? Are you naturally flowing this way? And how you know, let's have a chat about these things. Jump in, let's talk. It's good to talk.
They won't talk because they're probably people that have been on here. Now they're using sock accounts. They know how it's going to end, right? So now what's happening is they just want their rhetoric in the chat, you know, because there are new people that come in, and these newbies, they want to poison with their nonsense. When we're just saying Earth is measured flat because it is. They want to come in with all of this superior knowledge to confuse them.
I don't necessarily mean these guys with the sock accounts. I mean the guys who are just in Discord, who are the flat Earth guys. DJ, the guy, whoever's in Discord, who we know. You know, we'll have a chat.
I mean, I do a proper shout out for the, you know, expanding the live stream panel by sharing the show. But there's a link, you know, I plug it every single time I start the show. If you want to join the panel, you just click on the link and join us in Discord, and you can immediately start being heard in the live stream. You can go, hello, Mum, I'm on the Flat Earthers show, can't believe it.
No, that's what happened to me my first time on. I wish I could find that show. No one that got his fair taste of it. Get rid of this one guy.
On the first time I got on the show.
You got
Nathan.
told to shut up. Am I wrong?
Yeah. Shut this one deck up.
Interrupted my conclusion.
Look, I'm a very nice host. On that note, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who did like, comment, share, subscribe, join me on Patreon, smash the PayPal link, all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If Earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.